All right, this is your weekly weather briefing for Thursday, March 19th, 2020. As we go ahead and move along our presentation here. It's the first day of spring. Meteorological spring usually starts around the 1st of May, but this is technically the first day of the Gregorian calendar of spring. And to start off, we're going to be pretty warm for today. Average highs are going to be somewhere around 15 to 20 degrees above normal for today. But we will have a slight cool down with a frontal passage with the rest of the week on Saturday. We will have several rounds of showers and possibly even some isolated thunderstorms, mainly focused on Friday night, but we'll talk about those chances going through. So we sent out this graphic earlier this morning talking about the first day of spring. And as you can see there, we have some graphics there for the Atlanta and the Macon area. And generally, the areas surrounding those areas, these will typically apply. But we see the boxes there are the forecast highs and lows for each day compared to the background of what we normally have for this time of year. So we see here for today, Friday, and even starting to Saturday, we're starting quite a bit above normal, especially for today. Highs are going to be around 15 degrees generally for the area, whereas our lows are going to be about 20 degrees above normal for this time of year. So definitely a warm kickoff to the season. But we do have a frontal system coming through on Saturday, and you can see how our temperatures will drop off a little bit, at least our highs, going in through the weekend. We will have a few rounds of rain, as we mentioned there, going in, and we'll talk about that in just a second. So starting off currently, we do have a stronger low-pressure system that's moving into the middle plains. So right now, where we're at, we can see a lot of these wind barbs are coming up from the south. This morning, we are seeing quite a bit of our dew points around here in the 60s for a good portion of the area. So we're starting out in that classic warm sector that we get into, where we just have warm, moist flow kind of moving into the area, abnormally warm conditions. And we do have a strong frontal system that's going to be coming in from that low pressure there that's currently out there in southeastern Colorado. Looking on satellite, we've been mostly clear. This will probably start to fill in a little bit today as we start to get a little bit of a convection starting to warm up there. We see the frontal system that we saw on the previous images there. This warm front transition to cold front as it moves further east. We can see the cloud deck from that going across the lower Ohio River Valley, upper Tennessee River Valley, and the colder frontal system that's going through Mississippi River Valley into the southern plains. As we look at radar, though, we can also see quite a bit of returns going through there. Along that cold front there in the southern plains, we can see some stronger storms. That system will start to transition towards our way by the time we get into Friday, and even getting some warm frontal lifts, getting some broad areas of showers there in the lower upper Ohio River Valley, upper Tennessee River Valley. But moving on into Friday, by the time we get into Friday morning, and I should mention, at least for today, only slight chance of storms, slight chance of showers for far northern Georgia. Chances are only around 20%. But as we move into Friday morning, we can see that low pressure that was in the Colorado area starting to move over the Ozarks with the stronger system moving over north of the Great Lakes. It's kind of going to take over the transition of these air masses. We can see that we have quite a bit of showers lining up ahead of this frontal system. We're going to see that starting to move into the area late Friday morning. We are expecting mostly showers with some isolated thunderstorms and kind of focusing more for north and central Georgia, west central Georgia will be the focus for the strongest storms. Moving to Friday evening, we see the rain starting to overtake areas of the southeast. We can see that hatched area of those red lines in there. Those are showing that we have a chance for some thunderstorms in those areas. However, it's important to note that we are not expecting any severe storms at this time. And we usually see that with a lot of these patterns where we see this really strong high pressure system that's going to start moving into the central United States, where the low pressure system that's associated with this frontal system is way off north into Canada. Getting into the Quebec and Labrador areas of Canada. So the forcing for the front is going to be relatively weak. It's mostly going to be pushed by this high pressure system rather than being well organized from the low pressure system that's moving well off to the northeast. And typically in these setups, we'll have a line of showers and storms moving ahead of the system before from the high pressure. So this is just one example of some forecast radar entry that we could expect with this system, as you see, mostly anchored towards Friday afternoon into Friday evening. We will have some residual chances for some light showers there on Saturday too, as the system continues to move out. But as we see here, this is the type of general setup we're looking at. And we'll have a frontal system through here. There'll be a line of at least showers, isolated thunderstorms moving through. But you see for the most part, it's going to be relatively weak. You don't see any majorly strong storms with this system, but they will be at least somewhat organized. So we'll keep an eye on it as we're going forward. We're not expecting weather. Not really thinking these storms will be very strong. But we will be keeping an eye on that going into Friday and Friday evening. Along with this frontal system, and this goes into Saturday, this is the 3-day qualitative precipitation forecast. We are not expecting this to be a huge rain producer. In fact, only areas, isolated areas in the far north are going to get above an inch, or at least a forecast above an inch. But in generally for north and west central Georgia, we're expecting somewhere between 1/4 to 1/2 inch of rain with the system. And then beyond there into central Georgia, mostly looking somewhere around 10 to maybe 1/4 in some isolated spots. So not a huge rain producer for at least this storm system. All right, so moving on into the weekend, starting on Saturday, we can see that frontal system starting to push through the area. There's still going to be a chance of some showers, mainly for central Georgia, as the weak front kind of still continues to push on into central Georgia, but not expecting thunderstorms for our area at this time. We will keep an eye out that going forward, but in general, just some weaker chance of some showers down there, focus for central Georgia on Saturday. Then the colder air is going to start to be pushing into the region. By the time we get into Sunday, that's where we're going to start seeing our high temperatures below normal, even though our low temperatures are going to stay pretty even. So we're saying generally 50s and 60s as far as the temperature swings in those areas. Maybe a little bit cooler up north, a little bit warmer down south, but in general 50s and 60s temps. We do see the rain chances start to pick back up. Well, what we have here, and I'm not showing this in the upper level system, but we do have some upper level disturbances that's going to be moving across the southern plains into the southeast. And that's going to bring in some warm, moist air that's going to override the cooler air coming in from this frontal system. So we are expecting at least some rain showers in that region. But because we're going to have a little bit cooler air in place, not expecting anything severe with that, just some rain, some broad rain showers. Moving on into Monday, we see that frontal system start to organize a little bit around the Gulf. It's going to form into a little bit of a warm front and start to push up into the southeast once again. And generally in that pattern, we're getting that warm, moist air overriding that frontal system, creating that lift and kind of spitting out some rain showers for those areas. So Sunday and Monday look to be a little bit stronger for chances of precip around the area. But then moving on, as we get past Monday, we start to have a lot of uncertainty. We start to get quite a bit of discrepancy between some of our major longer-term models, and I'll show you what I mean here. So this is looking at one model in particular, but another model that we rely on, the Euro, is shown here. And we can see, I'm going to toggle back and forth between the two. You can see the major differences in between these two model solutions. So one is looking at a low-pressure system, really organizing some storms or some stronger showers along that warm front as it continues to push northward. But the other is showing a really strong high-pressure system really diving into the area and dominating the weather pattern for the next several days. So there's a lot of uncertainties. So in general, we're expecting somewhere between 20% to 50% chance of showers during those next couple of days. Outside chance of storms mainly focused for central Georgia, with the higher rain chances kind of focused more in northern Georgia. And we can see that looking at our day 1 through 7 precip here. So this is incorporating not only the Friday night cold front coming through, but also the days beyond it. So in general, when we're looking at this, we're seeing somewhere around 1 inch to 2 inches for northern Georgia and about 1/2 inch to 1 inch for central Georgia. So again, not huge compared to some of the numbers we have had over the last several weeks, thank goodness. So we're not expecting any major concerns with this other than some brief periods of heavy rain, possibly with the frontal system. But overall, a good rain producer to keep us from going into any bad situations, but not a whole lot of total rainfall really expected for this. So moving on into a little bit beyond, looking at the 6 to 10 day outlook and what we're generally expecting essentially over the next week. Near normal chances for precip. There's not really a strong signal one way or another going into the next week. That's what we'll have there. So generally, typically thinking about normal precip, maybe a little bit higher chances for North Georgia, a little bit smaller chances for central Georgia. But the temperatures, if we look here, this is showing a 60 to 70% chance of seeing abnormally high temperatures for this time, for these times of year, for late March. And that's pretty similar to what we're looking at the 8 to 14-day outlook. So those trends of seeing the 80s, upper 80s even building in for March, looks like it does continue into next week. All right, so moving on to some other housekeeping items right now. There was a storm last night over in Oconee County that we believe could have produced a tornado in that area. We do have some reports of some areas receiving 70 to even 100, up to 100 trees down in a small area. So we are sending a damage survey out to inspect that area today. So we will have the reports hopefully for you, at least something else for you towards the end of the day. But this occurred kind of in Oconee County there to the southwest of, southwest of Watkinsville, southwest of Athens area, in between Watkinsville and Bostwick. It kind of seems to be where some of the damage was focused. So generally, we're looking at these areas where we got a high reported damage. We did have at least a rotational signature with the storm. This is a little bit beyond where we had the reports of damage. So we are investigating it and hopefully have something else for you later. Another point, we are finally done, at least with, or don't currently have any rivers in flood within our county forecast area. And it's the first time we can say that for a long time. We do have a couple near Charlottesville that are on the edges of our CWA there, separating us from Jacksonville CWA, that are still in minor, but at least within the broader CWA, this is the first time in a while that we haven't had any rivers in flood. So where we had those waves of really heavy rainfall that were really impacting our larger rivers for a long period of time, it looks like those have finally started to at least subside. And we're not below flood in a lot of these. We are in some action levels where we are at bankful, but typically flooding is derived from impacts. And so at least within the CWA, hopefully we're no longer seeing any impacts in some of those areas where all that drainage has been going for the last couple of weeks. All right, and that's what we have for this week. So just recapping, we're going to start the week off really warm today. Temps are going to be about 15 to 20 degrees above normal. We are seeing a slight cool down with the frontal system coming through on Saturday, and then going into the weekend, we've got a few other chances of rain showers, but the pattern is going to become really unsettled by the time we get to next Tuesday. So generally expecting somewhere around chance of storms or chance of showers with a very outside chance of some thunderstorms going into Tuesday and Wednesday. So with that, I'll take any questions. If you are on the line, you can pound 6 to unmute your line. And if you're in the Join Me app, we can take any questions through the chat.